I think we're good. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Across the Desk. Today is the sparkto series, where I am so fortunate to welcome guests from Spark the Change Toronto. My name is Elizabeth Plouffe. I always forget to do that. I warned Lauren that I would forget. And I own MCV Communications, and I've been part of the Spark the Change Toronto team for 4 years. And then part of the Spark the Change India team this year, which was incredible. And I'm so excited. We have a pirate. I wore my booty sweater for you. And I don't mean booty in a way, but booty in like
your glitter, your basil.
My glitter. I thought I have to bring some booty to the table. And I'd like to introduce and welcome Lauren Waldman.
Hi, how are you doing? I love the booty, and I love that you're using my terminology already.
I have a little bit of a pirate, I'm sure, in me somewhere. So
based on the emails that we've passed back and forth, I don't doubt it.
You also called me something else today, but that's not for public consumption.
No.
Okay. No, I had a completely different outfit on, and I'm like, I need to bring some bedazzle.
You've got jeweled.
Yeah? I do.
You got the treasure.
So, I did. So I thought we'd do the treasure thing. So Lauren is joining us this year for the first time at Spark the Change Toronto, which is amazing. But you're a Toronto resident, you said, which is awesome.
Born and raised, yeah.
Born and raised. Oh my gosh.
I know.
You don't hear about that anymore. But you said also earlier, which is, we'll bring that in very quickly, that you were in Japan for a while.
Yeah, I pretty much started my career off in Japan. Five years from when I was 19 on. Left university, went straight to Tokyo. So yeah, if you want to know how to work like a Japanese person, I can definitely teach you that.
I had something on the tip of my tongue that was probably the wrong language. But because I have not worked in Japan. That's very exciting. Well, I'm going to kick off, and you're going to introduce yourself a little bit, but I'm going to read from your bio just so that we're on the straight and narrow in that capacity. But so Lauren Waldman is a curiosity seeker with a deep desire to learn, share, help, and laugh. From Lauren's start as a certified international teacher of language, to her ever-growing collection of degrees, certificates, and professional accolades, it's her infectious ability to bring people into her world of curiosity and possibility which has gained her success. A trainer, designer, facilitator. I'm going to have to take a breath here.
I know. It's a long one.
All good. Speaker, mentor, coach, and self-proclaimed pirate, Yar. She takes you on your own guided learning journey. Lauren creates with you epic learning adventures and solutions, drawing on her 16 years of professional experience that span the globe, industries, on land and at sea, and even sometimes in the air. So because you're going to talk about the neuroscience in a little bit. So we're going to leave it with in the air there.
Okay.
And tell us a little bit about your topic this year for Spark the Change Toronto.
Oh, I'm so excited. So this year what I'm doing with Spark is really embracing the neuroscience, but then translating that into looking at the history of how we've learned and where we are in the evolution of learning right now. One thing that I'm really...
We're going backwards.
We must go backwards, I think, to go forward sometimes. I'm not going to give too much away, but the Learning Pirate is very much about taking learning from not a culture or an activity or an action, but turning it back into something that's a legacy. So that's what we're talking about. Yes, at Spark. So it's all about bringing learning back in the form of legacy.
So now you've piqued my curiosity a little bit. And sorry. So it says here, so I'm on the sparktochange.toronto.ca, just by the shameless plug. If you want to learn more about, us and Lauren and everybody else. It said she taps into the science and fun of learning while maintaining a sharp approach with an intense dedication to the success of others. Dun, dun, dun. Mm-hmm. Her current focus is the study of neuroscience and how the brain learns has played an eminent role in helping individuals and corporate navigate through the creation of what she calls learning legacies. These studies have also given rise to strategies relevant to the confusions and challenges of the current cross-generational workforce.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
All right. So you have to throw us a little bit of a bone. Otherwise, this is going to be a really short podcast. So,
so where do we start? When we look at the cross-generational workforce, my previous role is really what sparked that in me. I had, over the course of the year, I had 150 millennials that were under my management. Yeah. Talk about a learning experience. But it really showed me that there was a massive gap between their generation and the generations that were in leadership and management, and the middle managements, they were really suffering because of they were getting pressure from above them, but they didn't know how to articulate that to their new hires. And I'll share this story with you because it's pretty genius. Is I have a really good rapport with my employees, and I sent them out onto their projects, and I just kept getting these horrible stories, these really horrific stories back from
So
them.
I'm making faces, which is why Lauren's going. Yeah. So anyway,
so
the video. So.
I sent out a survey to 100 of them because I wanted to know what was going on, and they just gave me the scoop, and it was brutally honest.
Wow.
Yeah. So from that, I recognized, and I started doing some research into what was happening, in the marketplace and in the workplace right now. And I stopped for a moment. I brought it back to myself. I said, wait a second. If I had to go to work with my grandmother and my dad and my sister and some cousins, I'd probably go crazy too, because we all grew up in different generations. We all grew up in different societies, and the societies in which we grow up in mold the experiences which create the way we behave.
Right.
So clearly there was going to be some disconnect. So there was a lot of focus on not only working within the cross-generational workforce, but then building in how do we create a legacy? Because what we're seeing right now is high attrition rates in companies. We're seeing leaders who are leaving, and what they're leaving behind is next to nothing.
So, they take it all with them.
So they're taking it all with them, or the polar opposite, is you're not going to hear of many great leaders leaving behind some really great things that people are saying about them.
Yeah. So then you have this spectrum within the organization where you're trying to send out your new staff who are newly graduated or relatively newly graduated or what have you.
Correct.
Not getting positive stuff there. And then you have your existing industrial age mindset CEOs who are kind of going, just do as I say.
Do as I say. I'm waiting out my pension.
Walk the plank.
Pretty much.
And yeah, I can understand how that would create some conflict.
It has created a lot of conflict. I think this is also, everything ties into one another, because then it makes sense. Why did this one company have 12% attrition within 6 months of their new hires? Well, now we know why. So learning plays a massive role in this. The way that we perceive learning, the way that we look at learning now is really my goal and my mission of Learning Pirate. And my scope is to, how do we now make it not, like I said, not one of those things where people go into a room and say, oh, I'm going to go train. Right? We've all had that experience. Yeah. I've had that experience. And I've also been in front of the room and looked at the audience and go, oh man, you guys were all forced to be here. So we're starting off on a great note. So
yeah, it's so easy to read, isn't it? When you're looking at the people going, I'm going to get nothing from you. I got no energy, no exchange. You just want me to put it on the table for you so that we can tick the box that you were here.
And I think that's where I always looked at, and maybe it's the pirate in me that always wants to challenge that. Is like, no, I'm going to get you. I am totally going to get you. Like whether you what it is and how I'm going to do it, whether it's you're just like me and you like the show I put on, I'm going to get you.
Which is good though. And I find, so I was an instructor for 2 years, and I taught medical office administration. And, for those of you that don't realize, the ladies sitting, or gentlemen sitting behind the desk at doctor's offices, for the most part, have gone through some kind of training. I happened to take the 2-year full-time medical office admin. So that was pharmacology, physiology, anatomy, terminology, office management, all kinds of stuff. And it was really interesting because the first time I taught the course, I followed the way the college said it had to be taught. And everybody really struggled. And I sat back and I went, okay, this is not okay that this is the way it is. And I went to one of my fellow instructors and I said, so do we have to do it this way? And officially he said, well, yes, but unofficially it's your classroom. And so I changed things up completely. And the first thing I did was I gave my students in the new semester a learning profile test. So we tested for whether they were kinesthetic, auditory, or visual processors. And so we did all of the testing and they got their results and they're very excited. And they said to me, Mrs. Plouffe, what are you going to do with this information? I'm not going to do shit with this information. And they said, why? I'm like, because I already teach you auditorily, visually, kinesthetically. So when I sit on the desk and we go through and we do this, and when I have stuff up on the screen, and when I create these testing things for you, and I already teach you that way, you need to know where your strengths are so that if I'm teaching you in a way that's good for somebody else, how do you manage that? And they're like, oh, we've never done that before. And I'm thinking, how can you get through, 12 years of education and nobody takes into consideration how you learn, which is exactly the same in the corporate,
Exactly. And this is something, people like myself, I mean, I'll dip a little bit into the neuroscience just to sort of bring us up to speed. I think the reason why we're seeing so much of the science come into play now with the way that we learn is because we now have the technology that has allowed us to catch up. So really, the neurosciences they've been around for centuries, but the technology wasn't until about 20 years ago. So in the past 25 years, we've now been able to take MRIs. We can see functional magnetic resonances. We can see the activity going on in the brain. And this has completely changed the way that we look at the brain and we understand it. That being said, I could show you a picture, and I probably will show you a picture of, what does the brain look like inside versus what does the Milky Way look like? And I guarantee you won't be able to tell the difference between the two, because it's absolutely infinite. So we're now being able to chip away at it. So for me as an instructional designer, that completely changed the way that I went about creating the courses. And it's funny you mentioned kinesthetic or auditory. We learn with our whole brains.
We do, but there's always, so I am a much better kinesthetic processor. So I read like a crazy person. Don't get me wrong. I have a business book podcast, so I read like a nut job. And I tend to process relatively well auditorially, but if I'm actually doing something with the activity, I retain that so much better. So you're absolutely right. The intake, and my husband's a dyslexic and my son is dyslexic. So I watch how they process and how they have to navigate around the challenges of how they take it in. If I watch my husband learn, if he has to read, it's, and he's a millwright and an electrician. So he's got massive amounts of education for this. Put him down in front of a documentary. He can spew off facts forever.
Yes.
Too much.
I think, but I think it's one of the things that we're based on scientific fact is one thing. Yeah. But what we see what's happened, I would say at least in the last, 25 to 50 years, is we've got all these myths that have come out about learning, and they did originate from the science, but people changed them and they altered them. So, to say that, okay, we only use 10% of our brains, this is a myth that's been around.
It's been debunked.
It's been debunked. We're totally, I think that, that myth came about so that we could really understand what zombies would look like. Every time I saw that, I'm like, if you looked at our society and if everyone was only using 10% of their brain,
that'd be pretty frightening.
That's probably what it would look like.
Yeah. Maybe we were trying to make certain aspects of society feel better about themselves.
You never know.
But
I think the summary here is that we have the science now. We understand so much more. At the same time, it's one star in the galaxy.
Oh, that's very good.
I know. I'm not even like a Trekkie or anything.
I am a Trekkie, which is kind of sad. Yeah. No, not a star. I know. What is it? Go forth and prosper.
Yeah.
And I'm not that hardcore. I don't have any costumes or anything. Don't freak out. Don't email me. I don't want to know.
Well, I guess I'll be asking you to dress up for Spark then.
Hey, you do you. We talked about that on the speakers call, and that's one thing that I really love. Each year, we're able to bring together such a diverse team of speakers. And we have people, all the way from Peter Aceto, who was the CEO of Tangerine Bank. We had Sean Mantel, who was operating the TELUS, and I want to call it an incubator. That's not the right word, but he was operating the agile team within TELUS and creating huge amounts of disruption and change in a positive way. We've had just a ton of different speakers, and everybody brings something different. And I think Jason mentioned on the speaker call, we had singing. Yes. And 2016, and I feel so bad. Her name's escaping me right now. Erica Bailey. And if you ever sang in a choir, I used to do choir and musicals, and I played in a flute trio and whatever. So if you have an appreciation for music, the idea of bringing 150 voices together who are completely untrained and completely, not singing friendly, you can sometimes expect a bit of a spaghetti shit show, right? It was absolutely stunning, like to the point of me going, oh my God, stunning. And she had everybody hold the note, and then the note ended, and Sue Johnston, who I don't think you'll get to meet her at Spark, continue. She was just so focused on the note and carrying the note, because Sue sings, not professionally, but she's a really good singer, held it. And we have that on our video where this lone note continued on. And it was, but who has singing at a typical conference, right? Which is why I love how unique your platform is, and the stuff that you talk about from a learning pirate. We've never had a pirate before.
Thanks.
That's kind of, what's that?
I said, thank you. It's, for me, I mean, the pirate story is just something that's followed me. I think, you know, when I looked back at it, I'm like, where did this come from? I'm like, how did I become this pirate? And then I look back, and the first picture that I saw when I was little is I commandeered my dad's station wagon. You know, my sister was my staff captain. She's sitting in but I'm like pilot, you know, I'm like, I'm taking this station wagon and I'm going
for a ride, honey.
I'm going places. And it's funny because, you know, everywhere I go, this pirate thing comes to me. But the yar is something I really have to think about for a long time, because that's something that I just naturally say in conversation. You've heard me just in the last few moments that we've been speaking. When I agree with somebody, I'm like, oh, yar. If something disagrees with me, I'm like, yar. So
it's more about the facial expression and the tone than the yar.
But the big yar and how Learning Pirate came to life was, it was when I had completed my first certificate program in the Foundations of Neuroscience with Harvard, because I'm like, why not start with the hardest thing I could possibly think of? And I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never studied sciences. Sciences weren't really my jam. And it was incredibly difficult because in my brain, there was nothing to latch onto. Yeah. There was no previous experience. It was really, I was starting from scratch. So it was challenging. It was incredibly challenging. I became my best own experiment. That was my living experiment of how I was learning, what I could obtain and what it was working. But at the very end of that, I was sitting on my couch. It was the final exam. I'm sitting there just by myself, alone in the room, with my finger hovered over the mouse, terrified to press to see if I had passed. But then I did, and this ridiculous, massive, I was like, "Yar!" Came out like the world. You know, those when you see the movie scenes and it goes like from the city to the space to the the universe. I'm like, yeah. And then I just sat there like, what in the world does that mean? And for me, in that moment, is where the Learning Pirate came to life. I'm like, oh, you're ready. Oh my gosh, you are really ready. Oh my God, you're really ready. Yar!
Good for you.
And that's where that passion, that fire comes from, which is now the ideology behind Learning Pirate, which is you can feel learning. You can feel it. And once 100%. You do, you have that moment in your own self that you're like, oh my gosh, I am ready. I can spread my knowledge. I can share my knowledge. I can use my knowledge. So you are really ready. Go do it. And this is what I want to, to inspire and to help people through learning to achieve, is their own moments of yar.
So I call it the moment of yes. So I had a last year, I don't know what it was. I was, struggling with my business and things were a little weird and whatever. And it started downstairs and I had to go up and I stood in the bathroom, and for like 5 minutes straight, I just said yes. Mm-hmm. I say yes. I say yes. And I haven't stopped saying yes since. So, yes, you are close. I like the thing, I'm going to read here if you don't mind. I clicked on your website again, and there's what does a Learning Pirate do, which intrigues me. And you have the Learning Pirate values. Mm-hmm. And which is really cool. So it says, P is for patience. Learning is a process and the results are not always fast and tangible. Mm-hmm. Investment, investing in the value of people, the process, and in building a legacy. Research, my methodologies are based on science. I value staying current with new research and continuing my learning journeys to better guide my clients. Mm-hmm. Adventure, learning can be fun and a memorable journey with many places for your curious mind to explore. Mm-hmm. Tenacity, maintaining commitment and determination to help clients get to their moments of yar. Yar. Enlightenment. Feel as your mind grows stronger, revel in the confidence that comes from new knowledge. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that again, it was based on my own experience. It also comes to my own values my values around learning completely changed throughout my whole journey. And this is something, like I said, I think that I would like to help people in new companies to see what the value of this is. I've spoken to a lot of new entrepreneurs, and I've spoken to a lot who are, in incubators right now and building their business. And the first question I asked them, even to, the venture capitalists when they're supporting these people, I said, let me ask you something. Have you seen business plans? Like, yeah, we see a ton of them. Like, how many of them have a learning plan in the business plan?
Ooh.
And they look at me and go, huh? And I'm like,
going to write that down. I did warn you I'd take notes.
Yeah. So, and this is where my fear comes from, the businesses moving forward is, and again, I don't want to give too much away because we are going to get, some of this is going to get into the spark, but is how do we make this more tangible, and how do we not make mistakes that we have made in the past?
Yeah. And
I'm a victim too. I had a learning company in 2008. Recession.
Was it?
Recession. Thanks, government. But it was something that I learned as well, which is I saw all of these people who were leaving these companies due to the recession, and they took infinite amounts of knowledge with them. And that wasn't replaceable. So it really did, so this to me is so important. So, and when I was first doing my business plan as a learning company, I didn't even put it in. I didn't even put in my own learning.
It's so smart. That's such a smart thing to do. And I never would have, nobody in the 5 years I've been, pursuing, I'm actually launching a technology company, and I'm going to include that in my new, because I'll be honest with you. I created a business plan for MCV Communications. Mm-hmm. I opened up a business center for a year, did a business plan for that. I have to do a business plan for my technology company because I'm applying for funding and whatever else. I have never looked at them again.
Yeah. Unfortunately that is, but this is where I'm challenging the status quo of how we have done things in the past, because it's the only way that we're going to change the way that this is done.
And including learning metrics. I love that.
It's not, there's so much so one thing that I really have valued from my experience and my career is, I've worked in so many places around the world, but that's really great. You learn about the cultures, and that obviously influences.
We're just frozen for just a second.
How I look at things, but it was the industries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You froze for just a sec. It's all good.
Tell me about it. Okay.
Am I not?
Are we on frozen?
Am I not moving?
You're swaying. You're moving and shaking.
That's good. But you are not. I'm going to ask you a favor, and it's totally off the cuff. I need you to lift your hair on the left-hand side. There's a point to this. Left. Your other left?
Sorry, my other left.
She is wearing a top.
Oh!
Because this whole time I'm going, it looks like she's naked.
Well, now she's naked. Hello.
Because it's a flesh-colored top, and it disappears under your hair. And I'm like, it's not that kind of pirate show. I swear to you people.
It's not. It's absolutely not. Oh, my goodness. Thanks for...
Yeah, I just thought we wanted to dispel the whole nudity question that might be going on for some. It could just be me.
You know what? Just because you said that, I'm going to interject with a really funny story, because this goes back to the day. This goes back to the days of film and cameras. Yeah. And I was dropping a friend off at the airport. We had finished our semester at university, and I said, "No, can you get someone to stop and take a picture of us?" And when I got the film developed, and the old school, you're looking, and I'm like, "Oh my God." The flash turned his pants see-through.
Oh no!
To this day, I love it.
It happens.
It happens.
And what was it? Princess Diana had that, where they shot that photo of her, and she was in a long white skirt, and she was backlit. This before she married Charles, like just when the relationship had been announced. Sorry, but the royal wedding just happened, so this fits. And she naked.
Yeah. So.
A lot of naked. So we're not a naked podcast, but we have those moments. Very true. So we got off track a little bit, but that learning, I love that so much. I'm so excited because this is going to be something, if I'm having a moment, I'm a lifelong learner. Like I've gone to college 3 times. I read all the time. Like I just finished, what did I just finish? My squeaky chair. I'm missing one note. I just finished Richard Branson's Like a Virgin biography. I just finished reading Girl Boss, which Okay, ironic twist, learned so many lessons and then looked her up and discovered she's declared bankrupt.
Whoops.
Life lesson. But you made me, when you said that, the learning plan and the business plan,
Yes.
it made me think of her because she stopped learning about business and she handed that over to somebody else. And I think that's where stuff went sideways.
Right.
Part of what it went sideways.
Right. So
and I think it's so true for many businesses.
It is, and it's something that having seen so many businesses that I've been part of and different operations, and it doesn't make sense to me not to include this anymore. And that's part of what Learning Pirate does. Is I'll go in, I'll say, all right, so we've got how many people? Let's look at your learning now. Let's look at it from now. Let's look for the cross functionality within the divisions. Let's look for, and we create those metrics and we create those matrices and we make them highly visible. I think this is really important, is that if I'm walking around, I think that the old sort of mentality of, well, you get in your career and you're in it for 20 to 50 years and not
doesn't
anymore.
exist anymore.
No, but I don't think that there's a reason why people should have to leave a company that they love if there's a different opportunity for them to switch or transfer skills that they already have.
Or augment them with learning.
Exactly. So it's
awesome.
So it's a web, and like I said, for me, I identify it as a treasure map. We create these maps and we make them highly visible in the workspaces so that, if Elizabeth comes up to me and says, I'm really interested in being a pirate now. I'm like, what skills do you have? I'm like, oh, look, I see you've got your booty already. Well, okay, let's see what's missing. Well, you need an eye patch and maybe like a sword.
I tend to wear a tiara. I have to be honest with you.
Yeah.
At Spark, I have an orange and gold tiara. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I wouldn't think that you are.
So we're going to wrap up. If you had one thing that people could walk away from your session at Spark, what do you think that might be? I know there's going to be lots because you're unique in what you deliver, but if you can think of one thing that out of your talk and what you've developed,
yes, what
do you think people might walk away with? No pressure.
No, it's, it's really what we've been talking about this whole time is I want people to walk away with seeing learning as how it first ever started, how our societies and civilizations were born, and that's as a legacy.
I love it. I'm so excited. So if you're excited now too, having listened to our little pirate chat and knowing that Lauren is not naked, which is
albeit kind of crazy and
yeah, but not nude. We don't do nudity at Spark. We haven't so far.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. We did talk about those assless jeans. So that's.
Oh, I mean, I did streak once in Rome, but I mean, that was just,
Good for you.
Thank you.
Not on my bucket list, but
they say, while in Rome.
Do as the naked Romans do. Which could be a thing. So please visit sparktochange.ca. Check it out. We've actually only got 15 tickets left. We're 3 weeks out. I know we're 95. I think it's 90% sold out, something like that. We've got huge teams coming from industries that I can't disclose because we haven't asked their permission, but we have some huge organizations showing up. So they've recognized that coming to a different type of conference can inspire a different type of learning and different ways to improve your organization. And now you've met Lauren, so you know the fact that there's going to be some funky stuff going on. And we've got surprises for you. We've got some of the standard stuff because that's what we kind of got to do. But for the most part, Spark's not your standard conference. It's not your standard learning experience. And I guarantee you will have a moment where you're like, I see why I'm here now.
And if that wasn't enough, it's my birthday week. So,
me too.
Oh, when's your birthday?
June 3rd.
June 9th.
Thumbs up, Geminis.
All right.
Gemini
come celebrate with us and have some fun.
Oh, yeah. We have cake now. Ooh, I'm excited. So, we'll move on from that. But anyway, thanks so much. Check us out on Twitter. We're at sparkconf.ca. It's Spark, CONFTO. Oh, did I say CA? I did. So SparkConfTO. We've got tons of other videos for our amazing speakers that are joining us this year, and we're super excited. I hope you'll join us. And thank you so much, Lauren. It was awesome. I loved learning all of this.
Amazing. Yar for now, everyone.
Yar for now. Oh, I like that. Ooh, there might be some thievery. All right. Yar for now. Bye-bye.